Hello, welcome back. Today is Saturday, December 2nd, 2023, and this is my updated election prediction video for Trump versus Biden versus RFK Jr. So, since my last video, a lot has happened. First and foremost, RFK Jr. announced his run as an independent, so what this means is that Joe Biden will almost certainly win the Democratic nomination, but RFK Jr. will be a contender in the general election. While he likely will not win the election, he will act as a spoiler, which is someone who takes away from the two major party candidates, who I see as being Trump and Biden. However, Nikki Haley is making a comeback and may be a contender to the Republican nomination, but I believe that Trump is the far more likely candidate to win the nomination. So, before I start, as always, I will mark down the safe states for both parties. So, now that I have the safe states down, it's time to look at the swing states and see who will win each swing state. I believe that RFK Jr. will not act as a spoiler enough for any of the safe states to turn from one party or another, or even to him, as I believe that RFK Jr. will be the third place finisher and will not take enough away from one candidate to take away one of their safe states. Additionally, polls support the fact that RFK Jr. may be taking away from both parties equally, given that some of his beliefs fall in line of the Republican Party and some of his beliefs fall in the line of the Democratic Party. Consequently, I believe that he will take away voters from both parties. However, due to him originally being a Democrat and due to him being a Kennedy, I believe that more Democratic voters will turn to RFK Jr. than Republican voters. But this will never truly be seen until Election Day, and we'll find out then. But that's what I'm basing my prediction off of, that assumption, that key assumption. And if you disagree with that assumption, then obviously you will have different predictions for this map. So the first is Minnesota, which goes to the Democratic Party almost always and will not switch this time. Second is Florida, which has been shifting more and more Republican, voted largely for DeSantis in 2022, the midterms, and Trump is actually more favored in Florida than DeSantis was, as Trump is winning the Republican nomination polls in Florida and will easily win Florida against Joe Biden. Biden will win New Hampshire. I believe that Nikki Haley could actually beat Biden in New Hampshire, but given Trump's record as president, I believe that he will actually lose in New Hampshire to Joe Biden, even though RFK Jr. may act as a spoiler. Now, there's Ohio, which voted for J.D. Vance and may even flip from Sherrod Brown to another senator contender in 2024, and I believe it will go to Trump. Also, North Carolina voted for Republican in the Senate in 2022, Ted Budd, and will go to Donald Trump in the 2024 election. So now this leaves the 6 key states plus 2 districts that will ultimately decide this next election. So the first state is Nevada. And looking at polls in Nevada, Trump is the leader. And Trump has been leading in polls, the general election polls, and polls in most swing states. So Trump is believed right now to possibly have a really good chance at winning the election, given he's not in jail by the election, and given that the polls are accurate, which they often are not. But looking at the polls, I believe that Trump will win in the state of Nevada. Now in the state of Arizona, Arizona has notably flipped to a Democratic politician in the governorship as well as in both of the Senate seats. Actually, scratch that. Sinema, who was elected as a Democrat, is now an independent. So Arizona does have an independent and a Democrat, but both of their senators were elected as Democrats. But looking at the polls, going to Arizona, Trump is the leader. However, good polls have an error rate of around 3%. So looking at Trump up +2 or +4, this could go to one candidate or another. And I believe that RFK Jr. will not serve as a big enough of a difference to switch this state from one politician to another. But I do believe that Arizona will go to Biden, looking at past trends and looking that Arizona is no longer favoring Republicans, given that Republicans have shifted from McCain Republicans, which they like, to Trump Republicans, which they clearly do not like. So Arizona will go to the Democratic Party led by Joe Biden. Now we have the 4 states. We have Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. So with Wisconsin went to Biden in 2020, and its polls are favoring Trump, but not by enough to cover the error. So I believe that RFK Jr. will serve as a spoiler, but again, not enough to actually switch the state, and the state will go to Biden. Now for Michigan, Michigan has 2 Democratic politicians in the Senate, one in the governorship, and has voted for Biden in the past. Haley is favored, but Trump is not. Trump actually loses a poll in Michigan and will lose the state of Michigan in the 2024 election. So, Democrats are up 262 to 241, but there are 2 states remaining which will turn the tide of this election if Trump wins both. Starting with Pennsylvania, the larger state, and the state that has elected John Fetterman and Josh Shapiro, 2 Democratic politicians in the recent past. But I believe that RFK Jr. will serve as enough of a spoiler to actually flip this state to Donald Trump, leaving Georgia. Georgia has a Republican in the governorship, but 2 Democratic politicians as senators, and I will look at the polls for this state. Georgia used to be a solid red state, but then started flipping towards the Democratic politicians, such as Biden in 2020. But Georgia, in wide margins, is voting for Donald Trump in these polls, or supporting Donald Trump in these polls. Well, we have yet to see what people actually will vote for, but RFK Jr. is serving as a spoiler, in fact, 10%. And it is noted that Cornel West is serving as a spoiler too, and mostly to Biden because he is running as a sort of Green Party politician. And therefore, Trump will win the state of Georgia, winning 276 to 262, and ultimately winning in 2024. So there you have it. Trump has a shot at winning the 2024 election if RFK Jr. serves as a spoiler. But we have yet to see what will actually happen, and make sure to stay tuned for more videos, and thank you.